Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to SharedServicesLink.com radio. I'm Sandra Higgison, Content Director at SharedServicesLink.com. Today on the show we are looking at the subject of location, trying to find out what you need to take into consideration when deciding where to place your Finance Shared Services Centre. So with me today we've got Douglas Clark, who is Director at Location Connections, a location consultancy firm who has extensive knowledge and practical experience in this field. So Douglas, hi, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Sandra. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. Douglas has over 20 years' experience advising companies on their location decisions. He's worked with shared service centres and has particular expertise in Europe. He also works with government agencies in Europe and North America, and he helps them attract new companies and investment, but he's based in London. So to kick off our discussion today, I thought we'd go back to the beginning. So if a company has decided to pursue shared services, when would you say it should start to think about the location?
Well, I suppose by the nature of shared services, they're an entirely mobile function, so location can play a part right at the beginning and, in fact, to help meet the sort of objectives set out for the shared services centre. So I would say everything should start with the objectives. What is this shared service centre aiming to achieve? What's the business case benefits? Is it to improve costs? Is it to improve quality of service? Improve management control, extend the capabilities of the finance function, or even link up with other support functions like HR, procurement, IT, etc. So once you've set out what you want to achieve, then I think that's when you can bring location in. And typical benefits that I'm seeing in shared services are typically 25 to 50% cost reduction, increased control over processes, improved processes, and an enhanced sort of service culture. So really these objectives could be met at the existing location, or perhaps a new location is required. Now, because of this mobility, it gives you a much greater choice and scope on costs, access to skills, and access to infrastructure. The saying, travel broadens the mind. And, when you do go out and look at other locations, you do see what's out there and what's possible.
Absolutely. So what would you say are the main options available to companies?
I'd say, well, you could stay where you are, stay local, and work with the facilities that you've got, or you could perhaps stay in the same country, maybe move to a sort of lower cost location within the country you're in, or you could go cross-border. You could go, say, near shore, to countries that are close by that have maybe got the same language or the same culture, the same sort of time zone, same sort of region, or you could go offshore and go entirely to the other side of the world. So if you're going to cross borders, you can go anywhere. Equally, you could also maybe perhaps outsource some or even all of the finance activities to an outsourcing partner. So that could be part of the mix as well. But interestingly, most of the shared service centres that we see, they change over time, from the initial setup. They're always about continuous improvement, getting better, and they usually sort of move up the value chain, maybe taking on other functions, and perhaps bringing in outsourcing of the more sort of non-core activities. So really, there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of options on the table for someone to go for.
Okay. So if someone decides or a company decides to go for a new location, what are the opportunities from that?
Well, I suppose they're starting with a clean sheet, so they can bring in new processes. They can basically do anything they want. So that's a great opportunity. But when we're looking at new locations, we always go back to what are the objectives of this shared service centre, and we relate them to what we call, and this is the one and only acronym I'll use, so I do apologise, what we call the key location factors, the KLFs. Really, what are the most important elements of a location that we need to look for to really address objectives of the shared services centre. And generally these cover, the people, the skills available, the technology, perhaps a regulatory environment, taxation, and the overall business environment, how easy is it to do business. And the KLFs are usually a mix of quantitative factors looking at the people costs and also the scale of the sort of labour pool that's available, the infrastructure cost. So that's the cost of your online facilities, your buildings, etc. And then there's tax and regulatory, I can never say that word, costs as well. And even if you're moving to other countries, currency exchange risks and costs. And perhaps within the cost model there may be financial incentives available which you'd put into there. So they're the quantitative side. But equally there's a qualitative side as well. The softer elements, the people skills, their experience in finance and accounting, their language skills, their IT skills, etc. Also economic and political stability of the locations you're looking at. Corruption within the locations you're looking at, is that an issue? And general ease of doing business and also the attitude of the location to your business, to your activity. Are they going to be supportive? And also one that is quite important to a lot of shared service centres that we work with is what's the extent of shared service activity in the location to date? Has it got a history of it? Is there a sort of service maturity in that area? That's another sort of soft factor as well. So generally you're going for a sort of balance, a value balance. You want to get best value and you weigh up the cost and the quality factors to come up with the best solution.
Okay. I mean, that's a great background in terms of the considerations that companies should be taking into account. But looking now at perhaps some of the trends, where are you seeing companies opening shared services centres at the moment?
I can mostly just speak for Europe, which is my main area of operation, and I'd say that there's a general trend eastwards. The Central and Eastern European countries have brought a new cost dimension to the game, and also the providing access to very large talent pools, very talented people. So they've sort of made things, provided a lot more options available to someone looking at setting up shared services in Europe. In terms of who's popular, Romania is one that's been very popular. Again, it's got a fairly large population, around 22 million people, very good language skills, and there's quite a lot of finance and accounting professionals available. So that one's been attracting quite a lot of interest. My personal favourite at the moment is Poland. Again, that's a huge country, 40 million population, and it's got a lot of large cities with lots of young people. To date, the focus has been, I suppose, mainly on Western Poland, and cities like Krakow and Wrocław have been building up quite impressive lists of shared service activities. But I've been looking more at Eastern Poland recently, and there's about 6 regions, or voivodeships as they call them, and I see a lot of potential there. For example, there's the city of Lublin in the region of Lubelski. That's chock full of students. There's about 100,000 plus students in the city at any one time. And another example is Kielce in the region of Świętokrzyski. Again, 60,000 students in that city. So Eastern Poland is cheaper than Western Poland, but it's got the huge pools of talent, and it's also developing infrastructure. So Poland as a whole is one of I think it's the only European country where growth is still continuing. They don't do recessions in Poland, so you're going into a growing market, and there's lots of people and potential available. Another gem I'd add to the list is Estonia, for companies seeking Nordic languages and culture, and maybe also needing to speak German, Russian and English. Estonia is a very good option, very attractive costs and very highly skilled people. And we're seeing some interesting shared service centres operations, developing there. It's a much smaller scale to Poland, though. Estonia just got a population of 1.4 million, so it's the size of one of the large Polish cities. But again, some interesting things happening there. I don't want to say preclude Western Europe. There's still some scope in the more established shared service locations. So your Glasgows, Manchester, Dublin, Amsterdam, Barcelona, there's still lots of opportunity for shared services there as well. And in terms of looking to the future, the one to watch, and I'll be doing a lot more research into is the Ukraine. Again, a huge country, 46 million people. We're moving sort of even further eastwards. Lots of big cities. I think they've got about 5 cities with population greater than 1 million. And there's already some shared services activity developing there. Example of Nestle have just recently announced they've opened up a finance and HR shared service centre in Lviv, which is in western Ukraine near the Polish border, and they're undertaking activities to service, I think it's about 20 countries in the Central and Eastern European region of their business. So already shared service centres in Ukraine, and it's huge, lots of amazing people, and definitely one to watch.
Okay, well, there's a lot to take note of there. And one of the challenges I believe that shared service centres can have once they've set up a new location is that saturation. How would you advise that they deal with that?
Well, in theory, that's something you address at the beginning. It's always a big worry that you're going to run out of labour because a shared service centre is through its success is through the success of its people, and if you can't get the right people, or you've got to pay a lot of money for them, then it's not such a good model. So again, you've got to future-proof any locations that you're looking at, and look to the future in 5-10 years down the line. And again, if you're looking at locations that have got deep labour pools, cities that are bringing in lots of students every year, and there's a continual flow of new people coming in, then that's what you want to have on your agenda. So ideally, if you've done your homework, labour market competition shouldn't really raise itself. But if it does, as long as you're a good employer offering good career opportunities within the shared service centre and the paying conditions are attractive, then you should remain competitive. Plus also, if you look at shared services as they change over the years, they do change shape in terms of numbers and types of people that they employ. They're more likely to move up the value chain to undertake sort of higher value processes, and they may perhaps outsource some of the lower value processing activities, which are people, require lots of people. They may be outsourced elsewhere. So again, you can change the shape of your shared service centre to perhaps address the labour market anyway. But if it is an issue, you should work with the local government agencies. They will have been very keen to get you there in the first place. So, and they want to, keep you in their location. So they will work with you to make sure that you can get the staff, and the competition isn't too hard. That's one of the issues. There's so much choice, and when you do locate in a particular location, the partnership that you have with the local government agency can be very useful, and therefore their attitude to shared services, I think, is a very important factor, and one of the key KLFs, as we talked about earlier.
Okay. Well, you've given us a lot to think about there, thank you. But if you were to sum up, what would you say are the key messages people should take away from this conversation?
Well, I'd say, preparation is all. Don't rush into setting up a shared service centre. It takes months and months of really thinking about it, and always go back to what we're trying to achieve with this shared service centre, because once you're out in the market looking at locations, it's very easy to get seduced by all sorts of amazing possibilities, but always go back to what are we trying to achieve with this centre. And if you stick with what you're trying to achieve, and you do ask around, there's a lot of data out there, a lot of people that will help you, then I think you can make the right decision. And it's a very exciting opportunity out there in Europe at the moment. So, location is important, and it certainly should be part of the decision-making process.
Okay, well, Douglas, thank you. There's so many more questions I could ask you right now, but unfortunately we're just about to run out of time. But thank you for taking part.
That's fine. You're very welcome, and I hope it's been of use.
Yeah, thank you. If you're listening and location decisions are something that you're working on at the moment, we've got our Summit for Leaders in Finance, Shared Services and Outsourcing coming up in October in Dallas, where this will be one of the key subjects that our presenters and delegates discuss. So if you need more information on that, then please look at sharedserviceslink.com to get details of the agenda. But also in a similar theme, our next interview is going to be with John Dickens, who is Shared Service Centre Manager at NEC, who's going to be looking at some of the cultural issues that arise when you're trying to bring many countries into one location, one shared service centre. So until then, thank you very much for listening, and goodbye.